When I first formulated the idea for Unordinary People, my goal was to talk to people of all different points of view to hopefully expand our ideas of what and how people think. I heard about Sonny from a friend at work, having been born behind the Iron Curtain in Lithuania and a former member of the Soviet Special Operations. Sonny Puzikas offers up a different point of view. He is a man whose life has revolved around the execution and control of violence. His opinion exists outside of the mainstream, but nonetheless are presented in a concise, coherent manner. I hope you will join me as we meet Sonny Puzikas. I'm here with Sonny Puzikas. He's a pretty interesting guy. I thought I'd bring him on. If half the stories I've heard about him are true, he's got a story to tell. So, Sonny, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, thanks for having me, Isaac. I legal immigrant from former Soviet Union. I do have papers to prove that I am legal. Heterosexual, white male. And yes, I do have, my accent is not from East Texas, Odessa. It is from Eastern Europe. I was born and raised in Lithuania to parents that were Lithuanian and Russian. That was during the years of the Soviet Union. So I went through the whole system, served in the armed forces in the military. Then upon leaving the military service, did some business, did some travel in the Middle East. Then got married. That was my first marriage, and immigrated to the United States. Lived in Ohio, Florida, Georgia. As they say, I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as soon as I could.
Yeah.
Eventually moved to Texas. Did a lot of various things. Number of years in security and personal protection business. Due to my military background, I was asked to provide some protective services to some high-profile, not celebrity, but high-profile clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I gradually got into training industry. Some people that work for me in protection business would ask me to give some advice about, certain things, whether it would be with the firearms or close quarter protection of people. And so gradually got into teaching and conducting seminars, and worked for a few training companies until I wised up and decided that working for yourself is the way to go. I don't like bosses.
Yeah.
That's not to say I don't like responsibility. I just don't like getting angry at people that we have different views, and people take the route of my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So I decided it's going to be both my way and the highway because it's just me. And so basically to this day, that's my main source of livelihood, and my also, I guess, I don't have a job. I have a hobby that pays.
Yeah.
And through that industry, I also got involved with some consulting initially for some so-called reality TV shows. Then gradually they asked me to appear in those shows, and that led to me starting my little YouTube channel, and then other things happened, and then movie directors contacted me at first for, again, some consulting on fight choreography and military tactics and that kind of stuff. And eventually, I guess they decided I am ugly enough to be a bad guy. So I started making appearances in some movies. I died in all of them, but I died well. Through that, I got contacted by a person from Treyarch who were developing the original Call of Duty Black Ops game, and again for consulting, and eventually, it was I guess, unique experience. We were using the same studio that they used for Avatar, for motion capture, and I didn't realize how much work it is to do a motion capture, but they paid well, so we did that. And eventually decided to use my face in the game too, so I get killed often in the games too. And about 3+ years ago, we moved here to East Texas from Dallas. Bought a property out in the woods, and I have my own training facility there. We grow our own, we grow our food. We live quiet life, out of mind, out of sight. So that's the short of it. I am married. I have kids, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to the beginning of the story and ask you some questions.
Sure, you ask questions. If I just remain silent, that means don't expect the answer.
We're going on to the next question. Okay. I guess let's go with the very beginning. What's it like growing up in Soviet Lithuania?
You know, I wish more people actually asked about stuff, because there's a lot of misconceptions. You know, there's a lot of thinking that, you know, a lot of folks in the West and younger folks here in the United States, they think they know what hard life is. And, you know, and I'm not necessarily going to talk about, you know, how violent it was growing up, because it was very violent. It was rough, mean streets, very rough, mean streets. Partially, that's what led me to get involved with martial arts at the age of 6. You know, I'm in my 50s now, so it's been quite a while since I started learning to fight, and because I had to. I was a skinny, silly-looking kid. Bullying is a way of life there. You know, it's not some kind of extraordinary event. You either stand up for yourself or you will get punked. You know, that's just the way it was. And no one really complained about it or looked to change the way or whatnot. It was your personal responsibility to find a way through it. And so that was one aspect of life. You know, another aspect of life is, you know, independence from very young age. You know, almost nobody back there could afford to have stay-at-home mom or, you know, one of the parents or whatnot. Both parents worked full-time, you know, and there were no housekeepers coming in to take care of the house, or you know what I mean? So at the age of 6, 7, you know, you were shown, you were told, and you were expected, you know, every day to do house chores. You know, it's not just to wash a couple of plates or whatnot, you know, to dust off all the furniture and wash the floors. And we didn't have necessarily these, you know, fancy Dyson, you know, vacuums or whatnot. It was a physical, hands-on kind of work.
Yeah.
You know, and so you came back from school. No one stopped traffic for you. There were no special school buses taking you to school where the whole life stops because the damn kid jumped out of the bus. You know what I mean? You used public transportation and squeezed yourself into a city bus and went to school. Minus 20 degrees Celsius. No, schools are not closed. You're going to damn school. You know, you're doing your thing. And in school, you know, twice a week, you know, you had not physical education, you had physical culture. You know, boys were learning to wrestle, boys were learning to fight. You know, there was a curriculum of Soviet school system. Girls were learning gender appropriate things, how to make food, how to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not this new age stuff where, you know, pick one of your genders, whatever you feel today like. It was pretty realistic, you know. We had good educational system, believe it or not. It's actually, I'll say it, and it's probably going to be controversial, but it's head and shoulders above what we have in public education here in this country. Head and shoulders, you know.
I don't know
everybody spoke at least 3 languages.
Yeah.
Everybody. You know, because we were in Lithuania, so we were obviously doing literature and all that of Lithuanian, you know, Lithuanian language, which is very different. Lithuania was part of Soviet Union, so Russian was required. Well, again, I came from partially Russian family, so that was not an issue for me. But everybody was absolutely fluent in Russian. When I say fluent, not just speaking. Everybody could write and read.
Yeah.
And by the 6th grade, you have to pick one of the foreign languages. And you had choices of English, German, French, Spanish. Absolute majority picked English, and by the time guys and gals graduated from school, everybody was at least conversational. They could get by in the world with whichever language they picked. Some kids would pick 2 languages, and we learned history, we learned geography, Our tests, I don't remember which grade it was, we were required to show all 50 states in the United States and name capitals of each state. Here I'm looking at a lot of young people, they'll mouth off about the war in Ukraine. They couldn't find a damn place on the map before CNN showed it.
Yeah.
They have no clue about its history. They have no clue about intricacies of the background of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, again, when there is this perception of how Soviet Union was so much backwards, it wasn't. It wasn't. We were poor. I'll give you that. Our stores were not loaded with food. For most young people here, it's going to be hard to comprehend that, tonight someone calls your mom and say like, hey, in this store, in that part of the city, tomorrow they're going to have some bananas. And she will go stand in line overnight to buy her kid 3 bananas because that was the limit. Because that was a treat. That was not something you walk in the store and you pick up banana.
Yeah.
We had milk, we had dairy, we had, bread, we had certain meats and stuff like that. But stuff like, treats or fresh fruit or huge selection of whatnot, it was not part of our life. On the other hand, everything we had was pretty much what here now is called organic.
Yeah.
It was actually healthier food.
Yeah.
Life was very physical. Everybody was kids, you come back, you do your homework, you do your chores, and then until the dark hours, until your mother screams out the window calling your names, we either played, depending on the season, whether it's basketball, rugby, or what you guys refer to here, soccer, or handball, or volleyball, or knife throwing games, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every day. So it was different, and
would you say that would you look back on your childhood as a good time, or?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not looking at it and I go like, man, I wish I had a childhood that my children now growing here in the States that they have. I would actually prefer my children to have childhood that I had than what they have now,
Yeah.
Looking at TikToks and playing computer games and, you know what I mean, and feeling entitled and being told by school all this bull crap that new woke culture is pushing, I'd rather them have had childhood that I had with hardships and everything else and violence even than what they have now.
Would you say that just because the way you feel like you turned out,
I'm not saying that I think that I turned out superior to what my children will turn out or have turned out so far. I'm not saying that. But I think those certain bumps in your life in your young years give you better understanding, better preparation for adulthood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's watching the number of young people here in the mid-20s, late 20s, still living in mom's basements. And you know what I mean? It's just, you couldn't even fathom it back in, old Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you reach maturity, you either go to university and through that time, parents will stick with you, so to speak, and all that stuff. As soon as you get a job, you are out, Bubba.
Yeah.
Welcome to adulthood. It's time to adult. It's time to learn. It's time to... And it wasn't seen like some kind of cruelty. It was just, this is the way life goes. You reach a certain stage in life and it's time to move on.
Mm.
And I went to 1 trimester of university. I absolutely had no desire to become freaking civil engineer or whatnot. I was partying hard. I was fighting a lot. at that point in my life, that's where I had a pretty heavy interest in young females. And so sitting there and doing geometry and all that stuff to me was like, what? I worked security in a nightclub at that point already. So hooked up with what people would say, bad crowd and doing crazy stuff. And not just fighting, we stole things, we did bad stuff, we stole cars, it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. A lot of alcohol, a lot of we didn't use substances. We smoked and we drank, and we fought and we partied, and so I dropped out of university. And back then in Soviet Union, the law was that if you're a university, your military service will be delayed or it can be basically canceled. But if you're not in university, in the higher education, it's a mandatory service. So I got drafted, and because of my athletic background, during the basic training, I basically got asked if I wanted to try out for something a little bit more special. And that's how I ended up in special purpose units, and that's it. And that's pretty much, there's a lot to talk about growing up in Soviet Union. People say, like gulags, you can't say this, you can't say... Yeah, we looked at America, it was this, shining house on the hill of freedom and choices and riches, and all that stuff. And we truly believed it. Coming here, I found out that it's not quite as shiny as what I believed when I was a young fella.
Yeah. So what would this is, definitely Cold War escalated era.
Oh, yeah.
What was y'all's view on that?
Of America?
What's the Cold War in general?
Oh, as young people, I tell you what. So here's the thing, right? So in schools, it was formally politicized. Okay, mm-hmm. So you had these teachers that were, basically their task was to explain to you our supreme ideology of socialism, how it is, much better than the damn capitalist pigs that abuse the working man and all that stuff. At the same time, my dad, 4 or 5 times a week, he was listening very quietly so neighbors don't hear, they don't rat him out. He was listening to Radio Free Europe.
Yeah.
BBC European services. We had illegal markets, where people had relatives, and eventually, they would get the paperwork and they would go visit relatives in England, in the United States or whatnot that immigrated, let's say after World War II. And they would bring back in, Western rock and roll, the vinyls, you know what I mean? And we listened to music, you know what I mean? There was access to you could rent out the VCR, and for 24 hours without any sleep, we would watch Western movies from, Enter the Dragon to Rambo to porn to Friday the 13th, you name it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we knew what Wrangler jeans are. We knew what Nike sneakers are, and those were high value items. You know what I mean? It was like a privilege if you could afford it. And God, if someone brought you from overseas, you know what I mean, because some distant relative bought you a pair of Nikes or Adidas or whatnot, forget about it. You were like a king of school, So that's another thing, is that, we looked at America, at the West, and we laughed about ideology that was being pushed, that America is bad. We go like, doesn't look too bad to us.
Yeah. So you didn't...
nobody believed, nobody
Yeah.
drank that Kool-Aid. Here's the funny thing, man. They go like, well, if you express views like that, let me tell you something. So my mom, she was a member of Communist Party. Reason why she joined Communist Party, because if you joined the Communist Party, you got moved up to get a new car sooner. You could probably upgrade to bigger apartment sooner, simply by the virtue of being a member of the Communist Party. She was practicing deep Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
Every Sunday she was in church. And guess what? She also shook hands with Leonid Brezhnev in 25th Conference of Communist Party in Moscow. Nobody arrested her. Nobody took her to Siberia. I tell you something else. I knew quite a few KGB agents that lived in our neighborhood in different apartment buildings and all that stuff. They were in the same church every Sunday on their knees praying to the Lord.
Yeah.
And they were not losing jobs with KGB. So when you hear all this stuff of how oppressive it was, now, obviously, going back into 30s, 40s, the purges and all that stuff right after the communist revolution in 17, yeah, there was some nasty stuff. They purged a lot of people were sent. But it wasn't as oppressive as many seem to believe it was.
Yeah.
So we had quite a bit of access to that information. We were not stupid. We looked at this and we go like, man, these guys here are not required to wear stupid uniforms to school. They can actually go to concert and see Iron Maiden. How in the hell are you going to tell me that that's a bad life in America?
Yeah. So that's the other question I had. What kind of Western music?
I was into heavy metal from the early days. From the early days, it started with things like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and then went into a little bit heavier, starting with Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and then even heavier went into Metallica, Megadeth, Testament, Slayer, and then into death metal scene, and then Possessed, and you know what I mean, and Death, and Deicide, and all these kind of things. And so it's kind of funny looking back. It's one of the things that I had my parents sent me after I immigrated to the States is my collection of CDs. Because I was buying those CDs there, so I had like a huge collection by the standards there. I had a collection of like 400 CDs, like full, catalog of Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, and all that, So I had to send them. I still have all those CDs, and I look at it, it's like a little nostalgic, These days, I really listen to very, very few things, One thing I always listen to is Tool. There's nothing better than Tool in this life, period. Musically, okay? Tool or you stupid. That's just, and if someone is offended, I really look like I care, right?
Yeah. The villain from all the movies and video games cares a lot about your music.
So no, it's just, it's my personal evolution in music tastes. I used to listen to a lot of music. Now, most of the time, even if I drive or whatnot, I do it in silence, or I listen to some podcast, or I listen to something. It could be psychology related. It could be Jordan B. Peterson. It could be Stefan Molyneux. It could be, number of people like that. It could be something funny, like, I don't know, some comedian that really doesn't hold back and is not politically correct.
Yeah.
And thankfully, obviously, I speak numerous languages, so I do listen to some stuff that's not necessarily accessible to Western audience. That comes from Mother Russia and all that stuff. So I do have a pretty balanced flow of information, so to speak, on events in the world. Plus I still have a lot of friends that I was in military with that at this point, some of them are very, very highly ranked in Russian military. So...
So let's go back to your military service. How did you view that time in your life? Was it just something you could excel at? Was it give you, because you were talking about how wild you were, did it give you some form of stability, or how would you view that?
I think military service for me was a form of self-realization. Obviously, I had no choice. I had to go, right?
Yeah.
But again, from the young days, I was, into martial arts, fighting. And by the time I went to military, I was legit black belt. Legit. Not, in your McDojo in a shopping mall, you know, 6-year-old comes out with a black belt and you go, kid cannot even make a front roll. He's a black belt. One of those. No, it was legit. It was legit. I do miss some teeth, not because I don't have good hygiene. I fought a lot. A lot. And so going to military, because of the way my youth went, my dad was an alcoholic, and so as a young man, I was looking, I guess, of that self-realization, some kind of recognition, and the challenge, the harder it was a way like, this is where I'm going to prove myself. This is what I'm going to become a man. I didn't realize that at the time, obviously. It was just a cool fucking thing. So I looked at these guys from the special operations unit that came in to ask if I wanted to try out, and they're wearing different uniforms and cool camouflage, and they have suppressed weapons, and they just look more mature. They definitely very physically fit. Their faces are chiseled. Like they've seen some stuff in life, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to be. It wasn't that I, like some kind of patriotic, I want to fight the terrorists, right? Or hell no. You know what I mean? I was freaking 18 and a half, Mm-hmm. So, and again, it was a very tumultuous time in Soviet Union. It was just before Soviet Union fell apart, a couple of years before. It was the tail end of the war in Afghanistan, and, even before I finished my training, I got exposed to what war is, I was shot at. I shot at other humans, and maturity comes quickly in that environment. Because you, at certain level, you are forced to face your mortality, and then realize the fragility, but also realize, what evil humans are capable of. Stuff you see in some of those places, it's. It crushes you. And some people will say that's where the PTSD, post-traumatic and all that stuff comes from. I have a very different view on that, which is very unpopular and insulting to some people, people that wave flags and, Anyway. So.
If you want to, this is long form, you can go into that.
Well, I don't want you to start losing viewers.
I don't have any. So.
You don't have any, so basically there's nothing to lose, right?
Yeah. Got like 50 people. If I lose 25 of them.
All right, well. If I'm going to start liking you by the end of this, I'm going to give you some plugs, with my followers, because I have thousands, so.
Okay.
There you go, I'll make you a star. And I don't need any cut, okay?
Okay.
And I'm not going to be your agent. You don't want me as an agent, trust me.
Yeah.
When I was in military and after military, I thought like a lot of public things here that military life is hard. Combat life is hard. Being in the war is terrible. It's dangerous, but it's not hard. Mm-hmm. It's pretty black and white. It's easy. It's pretty damn simple. You gotta have skills. Kill or be killed. You don't want to make mistakes. You gotta be good with your tools. You gotta be good at, I'll say it, killing people.
Yeah.
But that's your job. That's the only job you have. It's pretty easy. You don't have relationships. You don't have social limitations, bosses, workplace, social interactions, bills to pay, deadlines to meet, dealing with the daily stresses of what civilian life brings. From bullshit in the morning at the home because your girlfriend or wife or whatnot woke up on the wrong side of the bed and, she said something and whatever, it kind of messed up your day, and then you get a call from the boss that wants you to come in on Sunday while you promised your daughter that you're going to go to this, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All these kind of things. Then you find out that your friend kind of effed you over behind your back on this business deal, and then all of a sudden you get a tax bill and it's like, oh shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying there is no legitimate PTSD. Some people that come from, some deployments where they've done and seen some terrible things. There is that. But this thing that lasts for years, I had that. 6 months. I drank every day. And I fought every day. I was looking for fights. I hated people. Mm. And I would go and I'd pick fights. Very often I would get arrested. But then because of where I served and certain things that were in my documents, they couldn't keep me. They would let me go, and I would say, "Officer, I'll see you next week," because I knew I'm going to beat somebody up and get arrested again. But in 6 months, all that went away. You know what I'm saying? But what I see here now is a lot of people come back and they become abusive to their family members and their spouses, and can't find a job and can't do this and can't do that. And we go like, "Oh, we need to support veterans." Yes, we do. But you know how we need to support them? Tough love. Okay? Snap out of your victim mentality. You did what you did voluntarily. Nobody put the gun to the back of your head and said, "Go sign up with Uncle Sam to U.S. Army." What were you thinking it's going to be? They're going to pay your GI Bill? And then you're a victim because they send you to Fallujah? Yeah. And you saw some body parts and all that stuff, and now for the next 5 years you're going to justify beating the crap out of your wife, being asshole to your neighbors, not being able to find a job to provide for your family. You're going to justify that on 3 weeks in Fallujah? Okay? They need tough love. Okay? Welcome back to hard life. It's not dangerous life, but this is hard life. Military life is easy life. It's very dangerous, but it's not hard. And people need to wake up and start talking about it, because when we just stroke those guys and go like, "Oh, you're a victim, poor you," we encourage them to remain weak, to remain victims. And it's not helping. It needs to be direct, you know what I mean? And some people go like, "Well, you can't say that. I just did. What are you going to do about it?" You know what I mean? And I'm not talking from the sidelines. I walked in those shoes. In those shoes. I've seen things.
So did you come to this realization yourself, or did you get
I actually came to this realization myself, and believe it or not, fairly recently. It did not come when I was in my 20s or first few years after military or whatnot. Yeah. Gradually, something in my head started going like, this is not what it is.
Yeah, I guess you were talking about, for 6 months or whatever, you're on this.
No, 6 months, it was just, to let that built up anger, you know what I mean? That kind of dissipated. You know, I was able to be somewhat normal person again. But back in Soviet Union, or at that point when I came back, Soviet Union fell apart, so I was living in new country, in Lithuania, Nobody really cared about you and stroked your head and go like, "Oh, poor you, little kid. You had to kill people. How can we help you?" Oh, it was like, "You're a grown man, right?
Yeah.
Make your own bed, move on with the life, and start doing what men's supposed to do."
Yeah. So, when you got out of the military, was that because of the fall of the Soviet Union?
Yeah. Yeah. Soviet Union started falling apart, and a lot of special operations units were being used by very high-ranked officers as pretty much private armies. Weapon sales were going on to whoever paid for it, and they would bring in 12 guys, because $50 million cash were being exchanged hands, and whether it's Chechens, whether it's Yemenis, or whoever else was buying the stuff, and we go like, "We're not getting any percentage of this."
Yeah.
I mean, this is not what we signed up for, And a lot of guys at that point in 91, 92, that's where a lot of really experienced guys left. Even the highest tier units in the Soviet Special Forces, a lot of top cadre left.
Yeah.
And when you come back from that, the whole system has fallen apart. There are no jobs. So you can pick and go work for police, which is absolute corruption. Everyone is on the take. Why everyone is on the take? Because your salary doesn't cover a pair of Wrangler Levi 501s. Or if you have enough skill sets and experience, some of the bad guys will hire you, such as organized crime.
Yeah.
And you will do the same thing that cops do, but for a lot of money. So that's what it ended up, So the wild, wild west of the old Soviet Union when it fell apart, what happened in 91, 92, 93, man, it was wild because you had thousands of very highly trained individuals working for crime families, for, criminal organizations and all that stuff. They knew what they're doing.
Yeah.
They were good at it. They were angry, and they had no loyalties. Because what they were loyal to, their country no longer existed.
Yeah.
Their country betrayed them and then evaporated. Their military no longer existed. Most of their friends were doing the same thing because they needed to put freaking food on the table.
Yeah.
And then first time, when you're in your 20s and you get $10,000 cash for doing whatever you do, and then another 10,000, another 30,000, and now you can buy a BMW in the country that have people on the verge of starvation. I mean, you start feeling like godlike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, man, this is the life. Willfully you brush away the morality, the righteousness, and all that stuff that you're hurting people, you're extorting people, and all that stuff. That comes back later. And then people realize that, just like, as cliche as it sounds in the movies, there's only one way out of this. As we used to say back in Soviet Union, feet first. Because when they carry out your coffin, feet go out first. Mm-hmm.
So did you get tied up?
I have no comments.
No comments? Okay. No problem with that. So, anyway, so you go from that, you had the collapse and everything's falling apart. When do you end up, you said you're in the Middle East before you came to America.
Yeah, I started doing some business in Middle East, in United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and places like that. And that kind of became a little bit of doing business and commerce and then some security protection work. Let's just put it this way. Mm-hmm. And so I traveled to Dubai and Abu Dhabi very, very often. I have a lot of friends there. Did a lot of business there, made a lot of contacts. So learned some things about different cultures, about underworld, how things are being done and who's involved in what and how deep the corruption goes. Even in trusted Western institutions, be it State Department or three-letter agencies or whatnot. You know what I mean? It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And then it was time for me to make some changes in my life. I just got married to my ex-wife, and I'm not going to comment on that at all because, as they say in Bambi, if you don't have anything good to say nothing at all, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that. See, I'm even familiar with American culture, Bambi, right?
Yeah.
You would never thought some Russian knuckle dragger would know that, right? I have
kids.
I
was having doubts you were even Russian.
I have kids, man. But it was time to leave. I'm not saying that I came to some kind of self-righteous realizations or wanted to be honest and make honest money. Let's just say that the opposite. I just didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. Mm-hmm. So bribes were paid, connections were made, and me and my ex-wife, we got visas to come to the United States. And so we immigrated in 93.
I was wondering how hard it'd be for...
Money speaks, bullshit walks, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So, yeah, we came in 93. We lived in Cleveland, Ohio. She had some relatives there. Mm-hmm. And then...
No, was she Russian too, or was she...
She was Lithuanian.
She's
Lithuanian, yeah. And then... So we lived in Ohio. I was doing all kinds of jobs, Started landscaping, believe it or not. Worked with a lot of amigos, Mexicans. Learned some bad words, cabrones, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Hardworking dudes, man. It was, like a lot of people go like, man. Yeah, there's all kinds. But,
man, I've worked.
But a lot of Mexican dudes that I worked with back then, and initially in a little bit of, like a month of construction, and then for a year in landscaping, man. Those were some hard-working freaking dudes.
No, man. I've worked with them. I've worked for them.
Yeah.
You earn your money, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do. Then I decided I'm going to become a car salesman. So went to work at the car dealership in northeastern Ohio. The owner was just an influential Italian family. Mm-hmm. From New York. Yeah. From New York. Forget about it. He kind of liked me, so we used to hang out a lot and go to gentlemen's clubs together and have fun. And I was not a good car salesman. I was a good closer.
Yeah.
But I could not sell a car. But I could close a deal. And then one day, I received a call from somebody. And they said, we heard that you have such and such background and all that, and we want someone qualified and competent to do some high-risk security protection work. I'm like, I don't have any certificates or whatnot, They go like, we don't care. We just need someone who knows what they're doing. Mm. And then they told me what they pay, and I'm like, whoa. And I go like, when do you want me? They go like, last night. So next morning I was on the plane. I called my Italian boss, and he laughed, he joked. He goes like, yeah, you're probably going to become a hitman now or something like that. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing, Jim. And that started my years and years in protection business, and then to meet some requirements of different states and legalities, I went to a couple of schools and acquired, certifications needed and all that stuff. And since then I was running protection gigs, some large protection details. And as I said earlier, that's what gradually led me to start teaching people and training people. So that was the kind of progression of a immigrant. So
So you go from that. You start training people. How do you start off in movies and TV shows? You just get called up one day for consulting work, or?
Yeah, I got a call from this production company. I'm trying to remember which TV show was first. I think it was History Channel. There was a show called Weaponology.
Yeah.
I think that's the first one that called me. So I did a segment with them. Didn't think much of it. They actually flew out to Texas. Or was it Florida? Or was it Ohio? I don't even remember. Anyway, don't remember. They flew out, did some footage in the backyard of some house, and next I got a call from this different production company for this show called Deadliest Warrior. Mm. It's a reality TV show. So I fly out. There's nothing reality. It's all scripted. It's all BS, but they pay money.
Yeah. But was that the one where they have like two different special forces group? And then
so I was in the season 1, and it was Spetsnaz versus the Green Berets.
Yeah.
And of course,
I remember watching that one over and over.
Yeah, and and we Russians, we beat the Green Berets.
Yeah.
And I became a star. And I got a lot of hate mail too. They go like, the real Red Berets would have kicked your ass. Well, one of the two was actually still active.
Yeah.
In service. But anyway, I'm still in touch with those guys. And then it led to a couple other TV shows. And then I started doing some YouTube videos. And then some people in my surroundings, they go like, hey man, you should put out maybe a training DVD or something. So I did my first training DVD. And then already living in Dallas, So that was probably 2007. I got a call from this one movie director, and we met. And it was for the movie called Sinners and Saints. And at that point, Anderson Silva, who was at that point UFC champion, he was going to invest significant amount of money into that movie and play a role in it. But then he lost the fight. So he pulled out of that. So they rewrote the script. And I took the place that Anderson Silva was supposed to play. You know, and so that was project like long off and on, you know, we're filming next week. No, we're not filming. Then I got involved with another project called The Hit List with Cuba Gooding Jr. and recently very famous, who's a very nice guy, good dear friend of mine, Cole Hauser, who plays Rip in Yellowstone. So I did a movie with them. We filmed it in Spokane, Washington. Then we finally got to doing the Sinners and Saints, and I got to work and meet with people like Tom Berenger and Johnny Strong and Costas and Louis Mandylor, and Method Man was in the movie, if you know who Method Man is. Pretty famous rapper from the old days. Yeah. Who actually has incredible work ethics. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And so that was a fun project. Most of it we filmed it in New Orleans. Some of it we did in Dallas. And then other projects started happening. And so as I said, it was nothing that I ever wanted to be in Hollywood or thought of myself as a, you know, I want to be an actor. I want to be a, you know, it was just kind of like a sideline because of what I do, what I have to offer as far as skills and certain vision of how violence maybe should look to make it more realistic. You know, got involved with that. And then through other movies, you know, it was a blessing because I got to work with some very interesting people, became very good friends, and really cherished my time with Lance Henriksen, the guy who played Bishop in Aliens. You know, although it's not his best role, Millennium is amazing. But he's best known probably for being Bishop in Aliens. Yeah. You know, Lance is a great guy. Spent so many times with him while we worked on Daylight's End. And then went to Bulgaria. We filmed another movie there called The Brave. And got to work with Armand Asante. And he was in a very underrated movie called Gotti, about John Gotti. Yeah. Yeah, and Armand is an amazing actor. Great.
Is that the one with can't remember his name. Just had a court case. Big one. I'll come.
Just look it up. Gotti with Armand Asante. It's actually,
I'm pretty sure I've seen it.
It's actually a good movie. It's well made, and Armand is an amazing actor. Watching him prepare for his dialogues and his parts in the movie is pretty inspiring, you know. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a insight of how Hollywood works, and I still despise Hollywood as a culture. Yeah, you know, but I do have great appreciation for some very talented and hardworking people. Yeah, you know.
So would you say that you do enjoy making the movies and everything, or is it?
I think I'm done. I think I'm done with it.
Yeah,
I'm too politically incorrect for them to hire me anymore. You know, I don't hold back my thoughts. And with the highly politically charged situation and all the social justice BS coming out and all the, you know, tolerance of this, tolerance of that, I don't hold back. You know, and movies need to be financed. Yeah. You know what I mean? So when you have production companies that get investors to bring in the money, they also have to have a say that, we don't want any controversial figures in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And plus... while experiences with people like Armand Asante and Johnny Strong and Lance Henriksen and many others are great, there's plenty of assholes. There's plenty of prima donnas. There's plenty of not very talented, not very hardworking, just, you know, as the character in the Deadpool said, and you're probably wondering whose nuts I had to suck to get the role. These kind of people. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily very talented or good actors. I watched them. Yeah. Right? They suck. But through connections, through this and that, through hashtag Me Too's or whatever, you know, they get into these places where they get to work on some large projects and whatever, you know. And it's just not my environment anymore, man. You know, if I get a call for some cool project, I'll consider it. But this was never my dream or my goal or what I wanted to do. I enjoy training. I enjoy people asking hard questions, people reflecting on some deeper issues of why we don't function the way we could function. You know, that gets my brain spinning. That gets my blood flowing. You know, acting, yeah, it's fun. You know, creating the good fight scenes. It's a lot of creative work. It's a lot of interesting stuff, and it's fun. I'm not going to deny it.
Yeah.
And it's cool to sit with Lance Henriksen and get drunk together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then have Lance Henriksen call your, 5-year-old son to wish happy birthday. You know what I mean? My son doesn't even realize, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
for him, it's like, these are just dad's friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he tells other kids and they go like, you're full of crap.
Yeah.
And then Nick shows him and they go like, what? So he doesn't have that, like, I'm... I know celebrities. It's just dad's friends. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you talked about hard questions. So I was wondering if you might give your perspective.
For those hard questions, I charge money.
You charge money?
Yeah, that's the business part, man.
Okay.
I'll give you some stuff. I'll give you some freebies. That's fine, man. I feel generous. It's Saturday,
Yeah.
Hold on, let me take a sip of my spiced orange tea. I know it's a very manly drink.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about ordering a latte, and I was like, well, he's coming, I better not.
That's okay, man. I don't judge. I really don't judge. Nah. You do you, I do me,
Yeah. So I thought you mentioned talking about your perspective on Ukraine with some people and stuff. I thought yours would be a unique one.
It's very unique. It's not very unique. It's actually very unpopular in the West.
Yeah.
And not to take up your time or to make it even more controversial than it already will be, I would just suggest people take a look at a person who's much smarter and much better spoken than me. His name is Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Look at his video called Ukraine War or Civil War. Take it in. I don't agree with everything he has to say about Vladimir Putin or whatnot, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I like the guy. I met Jordan B. Peterson. I spoke to him. I have his books. I think he's one of the most important and influential people of the past number of years, especially for Western males, young males. But I'm not like a fan of Jordan B. Peterson. I really appreciate the amount of value he brings. So he did this video. It's like a 51-minute video that I would very, very highly suggest everyone to spend 51 minutes instead of watching Netflix to look at that video and to really hear what he has to say. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow. It's going to be very, very hard pill to swallow. But as I talk about training, you can be on the shooting range and blink at the targets and think that you're preparing for a gunfight. When the real gunfight with real chaos, with real stress, with real fear, with the horrors that happen of maybe your family member next to you being shot and that person is gurgling and you can't save him, but you're still in the gunfight. I mean, everything changes. It's no longer that clean target that you're blinking and you have a smile because you're making a nice grouping. So, when I say taking that red pill, take that red pill now. Listen to the Jordan Peterson, think about Ukraine before you have to take it as a suppository. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's coming. Our Western leaders are bringing something. They're talking about sanctioning Russia and all that stuff. What's coming to the Western world, maybe not so much here in the US, although we'll feel it. But Western Europe, watch this in next winter. Tell me what you see. It's going to be a suppository for millions of people. And guess what? Russian folks, I told you a little bit. We're okay without having luxuries. We don't need to have Gucci handbags in your Mercedeses. We learn to live hard. We're not going to start rioting on the streets because my internet doesn't work proper. I lived through the years where I could take a hot shower once a week. Mm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I lived through it. I lived through the years when 3 guys would split 1 cigarette. You know?
Yeah.
You're not going to sanction Russians into hard life. They know hard life. Mm-hmm. It's much more than politics. The national identities need to be understood. You know, it took me a while to start understanding American national identity. You know, and to study, although my command of English language is you know, average, it's okay. But a lot of like cultural remarks about certain jokes or whatnot, you know what I mean? You have to get certain background. You have to watch that movie from the 50s with this famous phrase to catch that zinger in it, right? Mm. Russian culture is not 300 years old like this. It's thousands of years old, and it's very rich. And it's very hard. Mm-hmm. They've been at war throughout their history. They are people that love freedom, but up until very recently never had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to think that you're somehow going to sanction these people by pulling out freaking Pornhub, McDonald's, Starbucks, and Mercedes out of there? Are you kidding me? What do you think they're going to go like, oh my God, my life as I know it is over? Here's what you're going to get. And we're getting it. And we're getting it. Whatever people are going to say about Putin, you know, he is the best chess player on the political chessboard this world has seen in the past 100 years. He doesn't play a short game like our politicians do. He plays the game 3, 5, 10, 15 years ahead. And we are being outplayed. Yeah. Big time. And we're going to feel the pain. Russians, for them it's not pain. It's just another day. For us, everything we know, again, not to such a degree, not to such a dramatic degree as it's going to be in Europe, but we're still going to feel it. You know? Even some Western institutions now, when you look at it, you know, they said, you know, Putin in the last 8 years since 2014 has built up enough of cash reserves for that country to be totally separated from world economy for years, and they're going to be okay. What's Russia's GDP to debt ratio? 8%. What's America's? Over 100. Which one is a rich country? Which one is in debt? Which one owes money? Russian currency as of April is gold-backed currency. The second currency in the world that has that. It's not a fiat currency anymore. It's actually backed by gold.
Yeah.
Russia has the resources. Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or what's, they said, if Russia completely shuts down their oil exports, barrel of oil will go to $400. It's $100 right now. Did you look at the gas prices? Mm-hmm. What do you think they're going to be when the barrel becomes $400? Yeah. How many people you know will be able to afford to drive to work? Because all that is going to quadruple the food prices because of transportation and on and on and on. So who's going to win the sanctions? Yeah. These are hard pills to swallow. As I said, it's better to swallow now before it becomes a freaking suppository.
Yeah.
You know? And this is just the cold, calculated stuff. I'm not going to go into deeper ethical and philosophical meaning of what's going on in Ukraine now. But I'll just tell you, it's not what Western politicians tell you. Again, I'll refer to that Jordan B. Peterson video.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sonny, this has been a very interesting interview. You told me, texted me, said you're not sure if you're interesting, but you're very interesting, man. What? Thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving me your opinions and your life story. And I'm sure people are going to enjoy it. If you want to plug your channel and everything, not like as we said, I'm not going to add anything
right.
to it. But
no, it's pretty. I have a website which is strictly training. So if people want to to train for violence, it's sonnypuzikas.com. It's pretty simple. I do have a podcast which is also strictly training. And it's a Gospel of Violence podcast. It is paid. It's not free.
Yeah.
It's membership. And but then I do have some free stuff on my YouTube channel. You can look up forward training concepts and things like that on YouTube and some social media. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Most of my stuff gets around by word of mouth, not through some big advertisements or plugs or whatnot. So that's that. But I'll give you a plug.
So I made it.
I wouldn't say you made it. I just said I'm going to give you a plug.
Throw me a bone.
See, that's your generation, man. I say one thing and you go like, so what you're saying is I made it. No, I didn't say you made it. I said I'll give you a plug.
Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, thanks for having me, man.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed listening to the interview, and if you did, go ahead and just like and follow or whatever it is on the platform you're listening to. That just helps me reach more people. Thanks. I saw you just do that. You're pretty neat.